The Shadow Home Secretary just wants to pretend that the last 8 years never happened.
It's the worst ever.
He knows that this crisis, this small boats chaos, went on for 340 weeks under the Tories. A period in which, when he was Immigration Minister, overall migration near trebled and small boat crossings increased tenfold when he was the Immigration Minister in charge. And during the 340 weeks that the Tories were in charge when this happened, 128,000 people crossed the Channel. How many were returned to France? 0. How many were sent to Rwanda? Well, he said himself it was 0, because he didn't even want to count the 4 volunteers. And, he keeps saying, that somehow it was ready to start. If it had been ready to start, they wouldn't have called the election. They would have actually introduced the scheme that in fact had been running for more than 2 years at the cost of £700 million with just 4 volunteers sent. I can also tell him that since the election, this government has returned over 35,000 people who have no right to be here, and that is a 24% increase in enforced returns compared to the last year that his party was in charge. It is a 28% increase in failed asylum returns compared to the last year that his party was in charge. And as for agreement with France, that he doesn't seem to want to talk about very much, I actually asked him about exactly this when I was Home Affairs Select Committee Chair and he was the Immigration Minister back in 2020. And I specifically asked him, what chance do you put on being able to get a bilateral agreement, say with France, for them to take back people who have arrived here from France? And he said, 5 years ago, that's what he was working on. Indeed, he told the committee one of our priorities will be to reach those agreements, and it is, I think, strongly in the French national interest to agree such a returns agreement. That gives me significant cause for optimism. Well, turns out he should have been optimistic about the return of a Labour government reaching an agreement where he failed. Here's what he also said. He said, "We intend to return as many illegal immigrants who have arrived by small boats as possible. We have flights planned in the coming days to return these individuals back to France, and we will be looking to ramp up this activity." Well, that was 5 years ago. Flights never went. The activity was never ramped up. The Shadow Foreign Secretary tried to return people to France. The Shadow Justice Secretary tried to return people to France. The Shadow Justice Secretary even called for the UK to, quote, take 1 asylum seeker from France in return for every 1 illegal migrant that we return to them. Or indeed, more than 1. He said more than 1. And as for interception in shallow waters, he said when he was Immigration Minister, some boats that are just 250 yards away from the French coast have just not been stopped by the authorities. This must change. I agree. But that was 5 years ago, and he didn't change a thing. Because they never understood that you don't change things just by jumping up and down and shouting about them. It needs partnership working and hard graft. That's what this government has done.